Welcome to Rewatch-and-Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is Merlin Season 4, Episode 10, The Hunter's Heart. Episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happens in the episode. So the episode begins with Arthur announcing that he has agreed to a political marriage with another kingdom over disputed land between the two kingdoms. And then Princess Minthian arrives at Camelot and they get along really well. They go on a couple of dates and hunting together. And he seems to like her, she seems to like him. However, Merlin keeps pushing Guinevere and that Arthur still loves Guinevere. While all of this is happening with Minthian, Guinevere is kidnapped by a bandit leader called Helios, who is working with Morgana, and they have a contract that if Morgana can get him plans on how to enter into Camelot, that he's going to attack Camelot for her and install her on the throne, and then she will give him free rein to bandit about. And that is how Morgana discovers Gwen in his hideout because she's been kidnapped by him when he attacks the village she was staying in. And Morgana decides to be exceptionally cruel and allow Gwen to see Arthur again by turning her into a deer and then placing that deer in the area that Arthur and Minthian are hunting in. And Merlin, because of his magic, is able to discover that the deer is Gwen. So he stops Arthur's arrow from hitting her. However, Minthian, who's also hunting, manages to end up catching Gwen. But Gwen does escape with the wound. The hunt ends without them finalizing catching the deer, and they all return to Camelot, where Arthur, having found the ring he had given to Gwen on the ground, where Morgana threw it when she ripped it off Guinevere's neck, has a bit of a crisis and decides that he doesn't want to marry Minthian anyways, or after all. And so he breaks off the engagement with her. Meanwhile, Merlin finds the wounded Gwen in the woods, heals her. When she wakes up, she tells them about what she overheard at Helios's hideout, which was that Agravain is working with Morgana. And so Merlin tells her to come to Camelot and tell Arthur that. She refuses, not wanting or thinking that Arthur doesn't want to see her and not wanting to see him because she's still ashamed of the fact that she betrayed him. And so Merlin returns, tells Arthur, but Arthur refuses to believe him because he's known Agravain since he was a child. And honestly, Agravain's betrayal has still not made sense to me all these episodes later, as far as what the motive is for betraying Arthur. Uther I could understand, Arthur I don't get, but especially for Morgana. But that's neither here nor there. Fact is, Arthur then goes to, try to prove the allegation true or false, and of course, Agravain has hid the evidence, and so nothing happens there. And the last scene of the episode is Minthian being sent off back to her homeland, where Arthur has conceded the disputed land as basically reparation for breaking the engagement. And so we now come to the time to rank the episode, and as always, we'll be ranking on the mostly objective ranking list, followed then by the personal ranking list. So to start, we have +2 for multi-episode supporting character introductions, and Helios, the bandit leader, recurs, as does Minthian in later episodes, and so they are each worth 2 points, bringing us to 4 points. Then we have a supporting relationship development, which is Arthur and Minthian becoming engaged. Then we have the multi-season supporting character development, which is Gwen being kidnapped and turned into a deer by Morgana before being hunted by Arthur and Minthian. And that is worth 3 points. And last but not least, we have the world building element, which is the discovery that Apparently, magical users of magic, can turn people into animals, which I don't think has happened yet in the series. I think this is the first time. I mean, technically, Freya turned into a cursed creature, but that was like a curse, and that was like magical creature, blood curse thing. So this is the first time like they turned into like just a regular animal, like a deer. And so that is 4 points. However, there are negatives in this episode. First negative is Morgana cursing Gwen into being a deer and then placing her to purposely be hunted by seemingly the love of her life and his new fiance, which is just like cruelty to the maximum. And so definitely negative messaging and behaviors. And then, of course, Helios kidnaps Guinevere after slaughtering a town, the village she was living in, and then tries to woo her after kidnapping her. Before then, once Morgana recognizes her, uh, sending his men out to hunt her also, which is not good behavior at all. And then, of course, one more -2 for the supporting relationship regression or breakup, which is when Arthur decides to end his engagement to Mythian. And this brings it to a 7 out of 10 objectively. So our mostly objective ranking list so far for season 4 has in first place The Darkest Hour, The Wicked Day, A Servant of Two Masters, Lancelot de Lac, A Herald of a New Age, Ethusa, Lamia. This episode comes in 8th, The Hunter's Heart, then The Secret Sharer, and in last so far is His Father's Son. For my personal ranking, I have to say I like Mythian. I do. I think she's a great person, and I think it's a shame that she didn't become queen. So here's the thing. I have been saying since episode 1 that like Arthur and Gwen unfortunately don't really have much chemistry. And they're written as this epic love story, but you can't really, or I at least, can't feel that because I feel like they have no chemistry whatsoever. One of the things that really sells this for me, like brings it home and highlights how little chemistry they have, is the moment Mythian rides in and removes her veil. Arthur's face is like dumbstruck, awed, flabbergasted, gobsmacked, just truly and completely like in awe of her beauty, her and herself. They get along so well. Several times when they're interacting, Arthur completely loses his train of thought, like not realizing he's still holding her hand after kissing it because he's just enamored with her, going on a picnic. Merlin trying to interfere makes Arthur burp a bunch, and then she, instead of being grossed out, decides to play along and she also burps, and they share a moment and they're showing that they're comfortable enough to be gross together, which is a good sign in a relationship. They have things in common. She enjoys hunting, and when they go on the hunt, she's the one who takes the shot that actually ends up hitting Gwen, and Arthur's probably would have too if Merlin hadn't interfered. She even recognizes Merlin's importance to Arthur and how much his opinion matters, and asks Merlin to give her a chance. And you just see these interactions and how odd and just, you know, enamored Arthur is. And there's no spells here like other princesses had. This is purely his reaction to her. And the chemistry is so amazing, and they get along so well, and it's just like, I cannot suspend my disbelief enough to believe that he would pick Gwen over her when we've had several seasons to make Gwen and Arthur feel real, feel like he actually loves her, feel like she loves him, feel like that relationship has merit, and the show has failed utterly. Like they just don't have any chemistry, so they can't make it feel real. Meanwhile, in one episode, Mythian accomplished what Gwen hasn't managed in like all 4 seasons, and yet we as the audience are told to believe that Arthur would pick Gwen. It does not make sense. It doesn't. From just like what I would pick up as, like I said, the suspension of disbelief is important in fiction, and I cannot suspend my disbelief that he would pick Gwen over Mythian. But that being said, I really like Mythian as a character. I think they would have made a great couple. I'm very disappointed that they didn't. And even Gwen coming back into the series after one episode away, I stand by that. I think Mythian would have been a far, 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 far better match for Arthur than Gwen is. But of course, I know how it's going to end up, which is very disappointing to me. I did like, though, that we also got, new magic coming in with the whole turning people into animals thing. That was great. Um, we are back with Morgana and Agravain's plans, and seeds are planted for the finale of the season to have, Morgana's plans coming to fruition. We can see like she's working with people. We see this side of thing. We see, Gwen being able to warn about Agravain, which I'm still surprised, especially given that Merlin at one point had seen Agravain coming out of Morgana's hut, that he did not know yet that he was evil. It's shocking. Um, but ultimately, Arthur did disappoint me by not marrying Mythian and not believing about Agravain. And so, like, I decided to give it a high score, but not. I gave it an 8 out of 10. I think that's pretty high of a score because it was entertaining and I did really enjoy Mythian as a character. And Mythian and Arthur had amazing chemistry, and I think they would have made an amazing couple. But because of the disappointing elements, I can't give it a 10 out of 10, and that's why it's an 8. But that brings the personal ranking list to A Servant of Two Masters, The Darkest Hour, The Wicked Day, Aethusa. This episode I put in 5th, The Hunter's Heart, Lancelot de Lac, The Secret Sharer, Lamia, A Herald of a New Age, or of the New Age, and His Father's Son is currently in last place. Also, I've already talked about it in many other episodes, but also, just as I just thought of it, I don't get why Agravain is against Arthur. I mean, this is his sister's son, and I can understand Uther because Uther used magic which caused his sister to die in order to create Arthur. Why he would have beef with Uther. I don't understand why he has beef with Arthur. Arthur's not at fault for that. Arthur has been nothing but kind to him. Arthur gave him like the highest position he could probably get apart from being king himself. So I don't see why he's against Arthur and why he's with Morgana, who is Uther's biological child, not cushioned by the fact that it's his sister's biological child also. It's literally the child, a bastard child of an affair that Uther had while cheating on his sister. And somehow that person is more important to him than his blood nephew that his sister literally died to bring into the world. I don't get why he's against Arthur. Like it doesn't compute for me. Um, that's also why it's an 8 because I'm still confused. But anyways, now that I've said that and that's come out as an afterthought, it is now time for the series ranking so far. And on our mostly objective ranking, we have Season 2 in first place with a score of 70.83%, Season 3 in second at 70%, and Season 1 in third with 69.23%. Season 4 so far has a score of 85 out of a possible 110. Meanwhile, on the personal ranking side, we have Season 3 with 72.73%, Season 2 with 70.83%, and then Season 1 is currently in last place with 66.92%, and Season 4 so far has a score of 78 out of a possible 110. With that, we've now rewatched and ranked Merlin Season 4, Episode 10, The Hunter's Heart. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.